So Limerick and Cork in the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship final this Sunday. Now let's talk about that game because this is going to be an absolute cracker. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Limerick and Cork going face to face for the very first time in an All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship final. Of course, they have played each other on numerous occasions down the years in the Munster Championship and, thinking back to that All-Ireland semi-final back in 2018. But this is the first time that both sides will play each other in an All-Ireland final at senior level in hurling. And certainly it is going to be a very, very interesting game between these two counties. I mean, Limerick looking to make it 3 All-Irelands in 4 years. They're the dominant team at the moment. They're the dominant force. Cork are looking to end the 16-year drought going back since 2005, the last time that Cork won the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship final. And for Cork, one of hurling's most successful counties, just behind Kilkenny in terms of the amount of All-Irelands that Cork have won. It has been too long. It's been the longest period in their history without winning an All-Ireland, as a matter of fact. And that will continue if they don't beat Limerick this weekend. And as always, I'm here for the tactical preview, the breakdown, give my prediction, give my preview, give my analysis on the game. And without further ado, let's get straight into it.
Well, nowadays you got to have that because people nowadays.
Before we get straight into the podcast, I just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Declan Kirby GAA Star. Declan Kirby GAA Star Championship Journey. It's a series of GAA team children's books written by primary school teacher and GAA coach Michael Egan. You can check it out in the link in the description down below, of course, as well. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smithgreen Gaelic Football Club, recently formed but promising GAA team. The book is now available in Easons and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below, and let's get straight into it. What's the story, everyone? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I hope you're all keeping wonderfully well. So this weekend it is the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship final between Cork and Limerick on Sunday. A cracking game, a very interesting game, and certainly one that I will be watching and making a number of videos on without doubt. There may be a live watch-along stream. The live watch-along stream between Dublin and Mayo at the weekend was my most viewed, most commented, liked video I've ever done. I suppose it's not really a video, more of a stream, but 2 hours long, 2.5 hours long. And first of all, I just want to say a massive thank you to anyone who tuned into that video, to anyone who watched. Very much appreciate it. I've gained, I think, 300 or 400 subscribers since that video, and as a comment that came in on a recent video there from a regular commenter and subscriber, Sir Klopp there, he was saying that although Dublin lost, the silver lining in it all is as a matter of fact that my channel has grown quite a bit over the past couple of days. And yeah, very, very much appreciate it. Look, listen, I'm still mourning the loss as a Dublin fan, but unbelievable stuff for the channel. And I really do appreciate any comments. And if all goes well, there will be a live watch along between Cork and Limerick. I'm actually going to be in Madrid when that game is on, but I will be bringing my laptop, my camera. I'll be bringing everything with me, so hopefully if all goes well, if the connection is good over there, if the internet is good in the B&B I'm staying in, we will be doing a live watch along. If not, there will be reactions, of course, after the video as always, so I won't schedule anything on the channel, but do keep an eye out on the channel about half an hour before throw in. Because if all is well, there will be a live watch along once again, just like last weekend. But anyways, let's get straight into it and break through Limerick and Cork in this weekend's All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship final. And let's actually have a look at both counties' route to the 2021 All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship final first of all. Now, these two counties did actually play each other on the first game in the Munster Championship. Limerick won that by a scoreline of 222 to 117. It was actually a couple of weeks after they played each other in the final game in the league as well. Limerick also won that match as well. Cork, they did bounce back though after that Limerick defeat. They beat Clare by a scoreline of 319 to 123. You'll remember that very last gasp opportunity of Tony Kelly in which Patrick Collins saved to deny Clare moving on to an All-Ireland quarter-final. That was maybe kind of like a sliding doors moment, or a sliding doors moment for Cork in many ways, because I think if Clare had beaten Cork, I think it's probably very likely that maybe Clare were in this All-Ireland final instead. Because Cork, they really improved in that game, but that was a huge moment, and they went on, they beat Dublin, and then against Kilkenny, they came from behind, they were trailing by 5 at one stage, turned it around, were leading going into the closing minutes, conceded that late Adrian Mullen goal, but then kicked on again in extra time with Jack O'Connor getting a goal of his own and Shane Kingston kicking on as well, and they won the game 137 to 132. Now Limerick, like we were saying before, they beat Cork 222 to 117, and they then followed that up with a 321 to 229 victory over Tipperary. You'll remember they were 10 points down at half time and showed tremendous resolve and character to turn that around. And they ended up winning the game and winning yet another Munster Championship. They then beat Waterford 125 to 17 points in the All-Ireland semi-final. And look, listen, I'm very excited for this game. Certainly Cork at the moment, they're the side that has a lot of young players coming through. I mean, Limerick still have a very young team as well, but Cork hurling is definitely on the rise at the moment. You think of your Jack O'Connors, Shane Barrett, obviously very impressive hurler, Alan Connolly as well. Tremendous amount of young players coming through. Tim O'Mahony, Dara Fitzgibbon, 2 more as well. You've obviously got the under-20s at the moment. Now at the time of this recording, I'm recording this on a Wednesday, so we'll see what happens with their under-20 final against Galway. No doubt I'll be watching that, and I would actually expect Cork to get the victory, considering they won the 2020 under-20 All-Ireland hurling final as well. So I mean, Cork are improving at the moment. They're looking very, very impressive. But to be perfectly honest, it's going to be very hard for me to see them beat Limerick, because Limerick, they're a seasoned team. They're the side that's done it over the past couple of years. They have the experience of winning these games. They have experience now of winning All-Ireland finals. And Paul Kinnerk and John Kiley, you're talking about the best management team in the GAA at the moment, in my opinion, the best in-game management team and the best management team in general, because like whatever problems there are going into a water break, whatever problems there are going into half-time, they have the ability to make the big decisions, to make the turning points and to turn their team around. I mean, how many times this year have we seen Limerick maybe struggling with something, and then they'll make a couple of little tweaks and changes and suddenly turn the game around? We've seen it against Tipperary, for example, 10 points down at half-time, made a couple of changes, brought Richie English off, brought Aaron Gallan off, pushed them obviously on the corner forward position. He made a massive difference, brought Shamey Flanagan more into the game as well, and Limerick were able to turn the tide. And obviously Kyle Hayes was given a free role, of course, in that second half as well to get forward, and he scored one of the best goals of all time against Waterford as well. Like they, going up into the first water break, Waterford were doing a very, very good job at limiting Limerick's attack, but in the second quarter of that first half, they outscored Waterford 11 points to 4. Shamey Flanagan got more on the ball. They start floating long balls into Flanagan. It caused all sorts of havoc for the Waterford defence. And Aaron Gallan, as you remember, almost scored a goal as well. So, we will get into the tactics board in a minute here now and really break this game down. But I'm going to say, first of all, it's going to be very, very hard to see how Cork win this game, because Limerick, they just have that ability to find a way to win these games. And I feel like the Kilkenny 2019 moment is probably going to end up being a very similar moment to, when Dublin lost against Donegal. They reevaluated, they changed the way they played, they changed their structure around every game. They didn't just have the same approach for every game, and they were able to make the big decisions in the big moments. And I feel like that was something similar for Limerick. And I think since then, they've only gone from stride to stride. Won the Munster Championship in 2020, won it again in 2021, and obviously won the All-Ireland last year. So you'll see on screen here now, this is a tactical breakdown for both Cork and Limerick. We're going to be looking through the key matchups and also discussing some areas that both sides could really hurt each other on the pitch on the game. Now, I'm using tacticalboard.com. It's the same website I used for the Dublin and Mayo breakdown last weekend, and we will delve into the matchups here, of course, between both Cork and Limerick. Now, I have gone out and put out the exact same team for Limerick that lined out in the All-Ireland Championship semi-final against Waterford, and the exact same team for Cork as well. The only change I have made is Shane Kingston starting at 13. I think surely Shane Kingston needs to start in this game. I mean, he had an absolute cracker for Cork coming off the bench, hitting 7 points in that win over Kilkenny. He was the key difference, in my opinion, for Cork getting over the line. Look, listen, it is a bit of a question mark because he was such an influence coming off the bench, and he could be such a game changer as well for Cork if he comes off the bench. But I do feel like starting, like he just has that momentum coming into the final, and I think he'll make it a key difference. And actually, as a matter of fact, I went back and watched the Cork and Limerick game in the Munster Championship earlier in the year. Like what I said before, Limerick won that game by 8 points, but Cork caused a lot of problems for Limerick in the first half, and it can be quite interesting when you go back and watch a game. Sometimes you have a certain sort of perception of how the game went, and then you go back and watch it and you realise, oh, that was actually a little bit different to the way I seen it the first time. And Cork actually caused a lot of problems for Limerick in the first half, and like, I do genuinely believe that there was an opportunity for Cork to win that game, because I don't think Limerick had clicked into gear just yet. In the championship, I think it took being 10 points down against Tipperary for them to really snap into gear, for them to make the key changes, for them to pull some lads off the pitch and really change the way they were playing a little bit. And obviously they done that in the Tipperary game, like we were saying before, and went on to win it quite comfortably. But Shane Kingston caused all sorts of problems in that first half against Limerick. He scored 1-1. He was obviously scored the goal. Was a brilliantly well worked goal from Limerick. It was actually Niall O'Leary who was driving forward, and we've seen that quite a lot with Niall O'Leary, where he really does, like them forward runs. He gets forward along by here, and whether it's flicking out a hand pass maybe to Conor Cahalane or Shane Kingston or whoever's around him, really. He's a key influence, and actually he's hit a couple of very, very well taken points as well. But actually what he done was, it was a short hand pass into Shamey Harnedy. He wasn't able to control the ball, and Shane Kingston ended up picking it up and actually slotted it comfortably into the back of the net past Nicky Quaid. And that could be just an issue for Limerick worth noting, because we'll speak about that like a little bit briefly here. Cork did cause a couple of problems. Like, there was another stage as well in the game where Conor Cahalane was actually driving straight through the middle here. It was a forward run, and he was actually brought down by Peter Casey, who was actually doing some tracking back at the time, and ended up fouling him. Now, Patrick Horgan took the penalty. It was saved by Nicky Quaid, and Limerick obviously went down the other end. There was a goal from Peter Casey himself, deflected off Sean O'Donoghue into the net, and Cathal Hayes also got a goal straight after as well, and we'll speak about Cathal Hayes a little bit in further detail. It was another one of his forward runs, once again in almost in a similar fashion to the goal he scored against Tipperary. So there was a lot of chances there for Cork, and we did even see in the Waterford game for Limerick in particular that they did actually have a couple of problems in the second half. Like, Waterford were driving at Limerick, and they did create a couple of goal chances. We seen Tipperary created a couple of goal chances as well, scored some brilliant goals in that game. So that could be some real area of concern, no doubt, for Limerick going into this final. And that really will be an area of concern, without doubt, for Limerick going into this game, is how do they stop those forward runs of Cork's wing-backs, midfielders, cornerbacks. Like, they're a very dynamic, forward-thinking, attacking team. They love to get players forward. And, like what we were saying before, we very often see Tim O'Mahony venture forward into these attacking positions here. We see Niall O'Leary, who obviously loves to get forward as well. Darragh Fitzgibbon with some overlapping runs, Luke Meade as well. So Cork really do love to crowd this half-back and full-back line of the opposition side, and their own full forward line as well. They really do love to get players forward, and that could really be some issues for Limerick to attend to. Now, I'm sure the Limerick management team, Paul Kinnerk and John Coyley, are already probably at this moment in time thinking about a strategy how to stop this, if they haven't already thought of one already. But Cork really do love to get players forward. Jerry Millerick as well. Tim O'Mahony. Now, it does leave spaces in behind, and if Limerick win the ball back quickly and float long balls up to Galan or Shamey Flanagan, they could really have a lot of joy with that. But Cork's ability to get forward, to create goal chances, I think if Cork are going to win the game, I think it's going to be by scoring goals. Because I think with the way that Limerick play as well, and the way they get players forward, they do leave spaces in behind themselves, and it's a risk that I'm sure they know they play with, because it's it's part of what they do, obviously, in getting players forward. So I think it's going to be interesting, and I think with Cork getting forward, if they can find a way past Nicky Quaid, because Nicky Quaid was unbelievable in the Waterford game, made a number of brilliant saves, and was brilliant on his puck outs as well. And that could be a very interesting one, is will he be making more saves? He obviously saved that penalty against Patrick Horgan in the final, or in the Munster Championship as well. So, if Cork can get goals, if they can get opportunities, if they can get Pat Horgan on the ball in around here, Jack O'Connor, obviously, one of the most pacey players in the game, in that Kilkenny game. It was around about here where he just drove straight through from around this position, picked up the ball, ran all the way through, and was able to slot it past Owen Murphy. So, Jack O'Connor is going to be essential as well, because he's the man who normally gets those goals. And I do feel like if Cork are going to find any joy in beating Limerick, they need to be taking these goal opportunities, because that could be the difference in them winning this All-Ireland or not, because I do think they will get these goal opportunities. I do think chances will present themselves. But at the same time, like we even seen in the Limerick Waterford game, when Waterford had a couple of chances, Nicky Quaid was off his line. He made 1 or 2 saves and then ended up coming out. And Dan Morrissey was there to get 2 really good goal line clearances to prevent Waterford getting a goal. So the question will be can Cork find the way through that Limerick full-back line and goalkeeper? Can they take those opportunities and get the goals? Because if they can, I do think they have a big opportunity. And in the game versus Kilkenny, Shane Kingston dropped a lot deeper. We obviously seen Jack O'Connor dropping a lot deeper as well. Like, he was very anonymous in the first half, wasn't really in the game at all. And then in the second half, towards the end of the second half, had a chance around about here and ended up, I think, hitting the post, I think it was. But obviously got that goal in extra time. And he really came into life. And I think with Shane Kingston dropping a lot deeper, it allowed Jack O'Connor to have a bit more space around here. It allowed him to get more involved in the game. And they actually were playing a 2-man full forward line of Pat Horgan and Alan Cadigan, who was another substitute in that game. And that's another interesting one. Could Alan Cadigan maybe start in this game? That's certainly one worth considering from a Cork point of view. And Ger Millerick, who I've highlighted here, he may have an injury and he may not start the game, so maybe Owen Cadigan could come in there, but we'll wait and see what happens. But that will be interesting. I think getting Jack O'Connor involved in the game and getting him on the ball is going to be crucial for Cork as well. Now, Cork's puck-outs has certainly had much debate this year and certainly had much discussion this year, it must be said as well. And in the Kilkenny game, they were very impressive from their own puck-outs. They won 80% of their own puck-outs, and Pat Collins was going short. Probably almost, I'd say 80 to 90% of his puckouts were all short. I mean, he was going out to Niall O'Leary, he was going out to Sean O'Donoghue, Rob Downey, Mark Coleman as well. Whoever was really in those best positions in front of him. And the most impressive thing about Pat Collins was he was really good at picking them out, very precise with his puckouts, very good ball into those players as well. And he was very, very impressive. And when he did need to go long, I thought he was very impressive with his puckouts as well, whether he went out to Dara Fitzgibbon or spotted Conor Cahalan out by one of the wings, who would sometimes maybe drift out by here. So he was very good on his puckouts, it must be said. But there were some interesting things. Having gone back and watched the Kilkenny-Cork game, Kilkenny were actually leading 6-2 in the opening 10 minutes, and Kilkenny actually turned Cork over around about in Cork's full-back line. It must have been 3 or 4 times, and like, the worry for Cork in the first half against Kilkenny was that they weren't moving the ball quick enough. When they got the sliotar, when Pat Collins would play it out, they just weren't moving it quick enough, and it allowed the likes of TJ Reid and Martin Keown and some of the other, like Owen Cody as well, just to press up on Cork and turn them over. They were allowing Patrick Collins to play it short, and then they were pressing them quite high up the pitch. Now, Kilkenny couldn't sustain this intensity as the game went on in the second half. Kilkenny really tired, and Cork were then able, they had a lot more time to build out from the back, and that kind of allowed them to really pick out the likes of Jack O'Connor or Shamey Harndy or Patrick Horgan in positions in front of them. Now, Limerick, as we very well know, I mean, they play with such intensity. I mean, they don't really tire. They play with that same intensity for almost the entire 70 minutes. If they need to make substitutions, if they need to make changes, they will. Like what I said before, John Kiley and Paul Kinnerk, probably the best in-game management team in the GAA, and they will know about this and they will make those changes if they need to. But like what I was saying, Kilkenny turned Cork over on numerous amount of occasions in the first half before Cork did start to move the ball quicker. And I would feel like if they're not careful, they could be in trouble, because TJ Reid even had a goal chance off of that in the game versus Cork, like what I was saying. And like TJ Reid was winning a lot of ball in the first half ahead of Robert Downey. Like, Robert Downey was brilliant in the second half and as the game went on, but in the first half he struggled a little bit. So like, that would be an area of concern for Cork, it must be said. And you would have to say that would be a bit of a worry if they don't move the ball quick enough out from the back, because Limerick's sheer intensity and pace could definitely cause a number of problems there for that Cork team. Patrick Horgan, I thought, was absolutely fantastic in the game against Kilkenny in that win. In the first half, he was unbelievable. I think he hit 8 points of Cork's 11 points at one stage in the first half. I mean, a lot of them were from play as well. I mean, he just kept circling around here, picking up the ball, especially in this area of the pitch here. And there was actually one scenario where it was actually Mark Coleman who picked him out with a long ball. Patrick Horgan gathered it and just right over his shoulder, put it over the bar. It was a really, really well taken score. And I think he's going to need to step up as well. And look, listen, more often than not, he does. One of the best hurlers in the game, no doubt about it. And it will be interesting to see how Limerick try and combat him in the game. We'll move Dan Morrissey out of the goal here for a moment. Will it be Dan Morrissey on Patrick Horgan? That's going to be an interesting one. And certainly the matchups, we will have to wait and see. But, I mean, that could be a very intriguing battle. And Dan Morrissey has been probably, up in one of the contenders for Hurler of the Year so far. Probably like Tom Morrissey as well. Like, they've both been absolutely fantastic, and Dan Morrissey in particular in defence has been brilliant. So that could be a really intriguing battle. And Patrick Horgan caused all sorts of problems for Kilkenny in the first half and in the second half as well. But in the first half in particular, he was absolutely brilliant. So that will certainly be an interesting one for Cork. I do also think as well, like, Cork's ability in closing out a game, I think has been of much discussion and much question this year. Like, they obviously had that lead against Clare going down the home stretch. They allowed Clare to come back into the game, and it was a 2-point game. Tony Kelly had that late chance. Patrick Collins made the save. Even against Dublin weren't really impressive. Well, they were okay in the game. They weren't brilliant, but like, Cork had that game all but dead and buried, and they just allowed Dublin to come back into it. It was a 4-point game going down the home stretch before Cork eventually did go on and got a couple more points of their own, and in the end won the game quite comfortably. And against Kilkenny, we seen they conceded a late goal in that game as well against Adrian Mullen. Tim O'Mahony was running out, with the ball from the back and got caught, and eventually was worked on to Adrian Mullen, who put the ball in the back of the net. So that could be an issue for Cork, because Limerick are a side that will not lie down. They'll keep playing with the same pace and intensity, and that would be a worry for Cork. And they did have a couple of chances late on that they missed, like Patrick Horgan missed a 65 that you'd normally see him score, and you would just wonder, is it nerves? I'm not sure, but Cork will need to get better at closing out a game, and I do think that is a bit of a worry going into this final from a Cork point of view. And like what I was saying before, I do expect Limerick to win this game. I really do. I think Limerick have been outstanding since the very poor first half performance against Tipperary. They've really turned the tide, and in terms of players that I think, to watch out for, I mean, you could look at the whole team really. I mean, that's the most impressive thing about Limerick, is that they don't just have one individual talent that you need to watch, or one star player. I mean, normally down the years you would have said that Patrick Horgan was the main man for Cork, and if he wasn't on it, Cork probably wouldn't win the game. But the most impressive thing for Limerick is, like, if Aaron Gillane doesn't have a great game, Gearóid Hegarty will step up. If he doesn't have a great game, Cian Lynch will step up. We're seeing Tom Morrissey scoring brilliant points so far this year, and Shamie Flanagan, I think, has probably been one of the more underrated players for Limerick this year, because he always finds himself in the right positions, picking up brilliant pockets of space, hitting points over the shoulder, and he's a bit of a poacher in the team as well. He always seems to be in the right position at the right time for goals. We've seen it against Tipperary when Aaron Gillane broke through, forced the save of Barry Hogan, and Shamie Flanagan was there to tap the ball into the back of the net. And he is going to be such a key player, and whether it is Rob Downey who picks him up, or maybe they do something different here, that will be interesting, because Shamie Flanagan, such an important player for Limerick, and probably arguably one of the outside contenders for Hurler of the Year, and certainly in contention for an All-Star, no doubt about it. He's been tremendous. Like, when you think back, he was actually on the bench for the majority of last season's championship and came in for the final, and hasn't really looked back since. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. Cian Lynch's influence is going to be so important as well. Picking up pockets of space here, dropping back into midfield. He just covers so much ground. And again, another potential contender for Hurler of the Year. He's been absolutely brilliant. And Kyle Hayes, I mean, what can we say about him? I mean, we all know that he very much loves to break forward, get into these positions, go on these runs, and whether it's a short hand pass off to Cian Lynch or Darragh O'Donovan, Limerick always seem to spot the right players, spot the right chances, and generally that's what works out best for them. And Kyle Hayes has been unbelievable. Got a goal from a similar position against Tipperary and against Cork as well in the Munster Championship game. So I expect him to probably do a lot of damage, and it will be intriguing to see how Cork stop him. I would expect maybe the likes of Dara Fitzgibbon and Tim O'Mahony to potentially try and swarm on Cole Hayes and stop him from going on those forward runs, but that would inevitably leave space for Declan Hannon or Dara O'Donovan in front of him. So certainly a lot to work on for Cork's defence there, but Cole Hayes definitely another player to watch in this Limerick side. And Limerick's use of the sure hand passing has probably been something that's just been so impressive about Limerick. I mean, they play with so much skill, and sure hand passes from Dara O'Donovan to Will O'Donoghue to Cian Lynch. I mean, they all just seem to break forward and just drive forward at the same time. And that's probably like one of the more impressive things. Like you're seeing Cian Lynch getting forward, Will O'Donoghue's going forward. They're just always moving in this general direction, and sure hand passing and just moving with the ball and little flicks here and there. You know, it's very risky because you could lose the ball and all of a sudden Cork could, you know, press and move very quickly further up the pitch, and that could inevitably lead into a Cork score or potentially even a goal. But it just causes all sorts of problems, and it's very, very impressive stuff from Limerick at different times, the way they just move the ball, and I would expect that to be a key impact for Limerick in this game as well. So ultimately, I do expect Limerick to win the All-Ireland. Like I was saying before, I do expect them to beat Cork in this final. I do think at the same time, though, it is a bit of a free hit in some ways for Cork. I know the history of Cork GAA, you know, they won't be thinking like that. They want to be winning this All-Ireland. They want to end that drought of not winning the All-Ireland in, 16 years. But I just think that Cork have a lot of young lads coming through. They have a brilliant crop of under-20 players coming through at the moment. I do think they'll get there eventually, but I think this is probably going to be a learning curve for a lot of those players. The likes of your Alan Connolly, Shane Barrett's, Jack O'Connor's. Like, I think it's going to be a learning curve for them, and I think they're going to need to probably have this experience of losing a final before they can inevitably maybe go on to win one. But I think Limerick, I can just see them causing way too many problems for Cork. Like Peter Casey as well will probably slot a couple of points. He'll cause damage. Shamey Flanagan will find himself in the right positions. Aaron Gallan always has the potential to turn it on. So like, I just don't see how Cork are going to stop that attacking threat of Limerick, because, you know, Limerick will probably look at it and think, all right, Patrick Horgan's a big danger man. Shane Kingston's a danger man. But is Conor Cahalan, Shamey Harnedy, Robbie O'Flynn, are they going to cause the same damage that Gearóid Hegarty, Cian Lynch, Tom Morrissey are going to cause? Personally, I don't think so. I think Limerick have their number on that, and I think that's going to be, like, I just think Limerick just have more players that can score, and as easy as and as simple as it sounds, I think that's true. I think they just have quality all across the pitch, and I think that's how they're going to win the game. And like, Cork's goal threat could definitely be a big issue for Limerick, but I'm sure Limerick will have worked on it. Barry Nash and Dan Morrissey have been fantastic this year, Sean Finn as well. So I just don't see how, you know, Cork, I can see Cork getting opportunities, but I can see Limerick doing enough in that department. Maybe they might concede 1 or 2 goals, but I think they'll more than do enough to restrict Cork going forward and to try and prevent those goal chances at different opportunities. So I'm going to go with Limerick to win it by 7 points, and we'll throw a graphic on screen right now of my prediction, my score prediction, and what I think it will be. But I think that Limerick will win this game by 7 points. I think they'll have it too much for Cork. The bench is going to be interesting, like we were saying. Alan Connolly and Shane Barrett maybe coming off the bench for Cork. Could we see Alan Cadigan come off the bench as well? And obviously for Limerick, they've plenty of options to bring off the bench as well. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be intriguing. It's definitely going to be a close battle. But I do expect Limerick to really pull away. And like what I was saying before, the water breaks, personally, I think the GAA needs to get rid of them, because Limerick have probably been so good at using the water break. I mean, we see John Kiley there with his tactics board and showing what areas of the pitch Limerick need to work on. I mean, it's very intriguing stuff watching it on TV, or, you know, whether you're at the game or not. But I think Limerick have used the water break so well, because they see the problems, they identify the solutions, and they fix them. And that's been something that Limerick have done so well since they brought in these water breaks. And I just don't see how Cork are going to bring anything to the table that Limerick don't already know about or won't fix during the game. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. Do leave a like and subscribe already. If you do enjoy this content, I do very much appreciate it, and do subscribe. Helps the growth of the channel, and we're certainly on the growth, or on the mission towards 2,000 subscribers. So if you could help me on the road to getting there, I very much would appreciate it. Like what I said before, hopefully I'll be able to do a live watch along of the game and do a post-match reaction and all that as well. So do stay tuned for that on the channel if they all do happen. There definitely will be a match reaction anyways, but whether it'll be live or not, we will wait and see. But yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in, and I'll see you all for the next one.